What's up, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Happy July and happy Disability Pride Month. I thought I would have a little chat and share, like the thumbnail says, what it was like traveling abroad as a disabled person while I work on this little pouch I'm making in the Disability Pride flag colors. I am also using my new furls hook. I'm not a huge fan of inline hooks, but this was really beautiful and I wanted to try it out. So if you're new here, I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a relatively new diagnosis, but I have dealt with joint pain and chronic fatigue for over a decade now. I normally use a walking cane. Sometimes I also use a wheelchair because it's a dynamic disability. And I have been out of the country before, but not since like right before my condition started to get worse. I went to London when I was in college on like a school trip. So it's July when you're seeing this, but it's June when I'm filming. We just a week ago got back from a trip to Ireland and Northern Ireland. The guy's brother was getting married over there, so a bunch of us went, and I have really bad travel anxiety because of my condition and all that kind of stuff. It was definitely had its rocky moments, but we overall had a really great time. I learned a lot about sort of myself and my limitations. I've learned even more about those. But I was really glad I went. But I noticed some things that I thought maybe if you are disabled and considering traveling abroad, some things that might be helpful, just if that's something you're thinking about. So let me consult my list. So let's start with the pros. Now obviously I was just in a couple of countries. I wasn't all over Europe, so I know that this is going to be a certain amount of generalizing. But something I noticed a lot is that pretty much every restaurant that we went to either had a sign, or they also, like a waiter, would ask you if you had food allergies. And like they would have a sign that says like, if you have a food allergy, please let us know. And I thought that was really awesome because I don't have food allergies. I have dietary restrictions. It's really difficult for me to find restaurants to eat at, so usually I just sit at a restaurant with everyone while they eat food, and then I go back to the Airbnb and cook food. But I know that for people with food allergies, just like people I've talked to have mentioned that sometimes, especially if you're in a new place, like feeling kind of hesitant to like ask about food allergies, or like you don't want to seem like you're a problem or you're inconveniencing them. So I thought that they, like the fact that they preemptively had signage, or would just ask you about it, or they would ask, you know, or do we have any vegans, like anything like that. They were very on the ball with that, and I thought that was really cool. Something that I saw quite a bit of were more accessible bathrooms. I follow quite a few disabled influencers on Instagram that are from the UK, so I have seen like the pull cords and stuff, like if you need assistance in a bathroom. I don't know if we have those in the US. I have never seen them, but I saw a few while we were there, and a couple of our family members that were traveling with us mentioned that they did also. So I just thought that was cool that it was like more readily accessible. Something else I thought was really cool was at one point we just had to go to a pharmacy to just get some over-the-counter medicine, and they asked, even though it was just something over-the-counter, they asked what other medications you take, because they wanted to like make sure that it wasn't going to mess with your medication. And I just thought that was like very thorough and like thoughtful to ask that, because you never know. So I did think that was really cool. Okay, that was not very many things, but there are things that they do well with this accessibility there. And we were in Dublin for a bit and we were in Belfast for a bit, but the rest of the towns we were in were like small. So obviously bigger cities are going to be more accessible. I did not bring my wheelchair. I didn't want to. I had enough anxiety about traveling and dealing with our stuff at the airport without also having to like check my wheelchair plus all the luggage, and you know, what if it got broken? I've seen and heard horror stories of like the way that wheelchairs and other mobility aids and medical equipment get handled on a plane, so I did not want to deal with that. It also probably would have been useless in a few spots. It is not a motorized wheelchair, so a lot of the streets were like cobblestones, and I don't think even saw an elevator until we had been there for like a week. So I don't know. One of the first things we did when we got off the plane in Dublin was go down a set of stairs, and it was a really long walk. The Dublin airport is probably one of the worst airports I've ever experienced. The people there were not very helpful or friendly. We had some, I won't bore you with it, but it was like something we thought was maybe an issue, but it ended up not being an issue. But like nobody wanted to help us. They were all being very weird. Like I said, lots of stairs, lots of walking, lots of cobblestones. Obviously, European cities are old. Like I knew that they were gonna not be as accessible. That's just kind of a given. I think there is accessibility where there can be. There were a lot of automatic doors. I guess that could have gone in the pro column. Lots of automatic doors. There were ramps where they were where they could fit. Still not a lot of places, but there were ramps where there could be. Something to consider, because I didn't. I have learned from this trip that long haul plane rides are not for me. If you have joint issues, obviously everyone's experience is going to be different, but the really long, we did like a connecting flight. We flew to like another city in the US, and then flying to Dublin was like 7 hours. Not being able to move around a lot is a problem for me, so I was in a lot of pain on the long flights, and it like really exhausted me, especially on the way there. So it was like I was already kind of down for the count before we even started our trip. So that is something to keep in mind. I was able to, on the way back, employ some like strategic sitting where I would like cross my legs differently or just do something to try to move around a little. And actually on the short flight, like once we landed back in the US, we had a connecting flight to come home. We got lucky and the plane wasn't full, so there was an empty seat next to us, and I was able to like lie down on the next seat, so that was actually really helpful for my back. And I asked the flight attendants for like extra pillows on the long flight and stuff to try to help too. So I was able to make the flight back less terrible. But yeah, I think if I want to go see countries on the other side of the world, I need to find a different way to travel because that I was not prepared for how much uncomfortable plane seats on a long flight would affect me. So something to keep in mind. Something to be aware of, I did talk about the accessibility of bathrooms, but if you are someone who like needs to have access to a bathroom for various medical reasons. Note that there are not always public toilets within reach, and we did learn while we were taking a little road trip up to Northern Ireland that the public toilets that we found are closed on Sundays. So we really needed to pee break and had to ask some really nice girl with headphones in where there was a bathroom. So like not even all the convenience stores had them, so it was like bigger stores that would have them. But that's just something to keep in mind if that's something that you might need access to quickly. I need to switch colors. Let me grab my scissors. Yes, so the next thing, again, I guess this is kind of a given, like a lot of the cities are walking cities. I have lived, you know, in cities, some decently large ones, but a lot of the attractions or just things that you might want to see did not have any parking nearby. There were a couple of like big things that I was sure that they would have like a parking lot for, and they did not. So whether you want to like get an Uber to drop you off like as close as you can, or not like some things a bus doesn't even go to. So we rented a car, which was great, just because of all of my stuff, like public transport I don't do well with. It just complicates a lot of things, so renting a car was definitely the right decision for us. But even with that, like trying to find street parking to do some things was a lot, and there was a lot more walking than I even was prepared for. And the last thing, if you are someone who's affected by the cold, or I guess maybe even the heat, I don't think it gets that hot. We went in the beginning of June, so it was quite chilly, like in the low 50s every day, but I'm not like, cold is actually a little bit better for me. There was a day that I was actually able to like go hike down to see some of this stuff with everybody, because like it was just the right amount of cold where I wasn't like too freezing, but where my body like moves better. I can't get too hot. That makes everything worse for me. But in all of our Airbnbs, we had to like, each place was different as far as how the radiators worked for heat, because they don't really have like central heating. Some places we couldn't even get them to turn on. One place we weren't allowed to turn it on, and we weren't allowed to use hot water except for in the shower to like wash our dishes or anything like that. So just if you are affected by cold and you go to Europe, I would suggest maybe staying at like a hotel or something that is a little newer, or like a newer apartment Airbnb or something, where you just will have more access or easier access to staying warm. So those are my pros and cons of traveling to Europe, to Ireland. Like I said, overall it was a fantastic trip. I'm so glad that I went, even though it was really like difficult at times. But when you're chronically ill, like everything is difficult at least sometimes. So that's not really anything new, I guess. But I hope that you found some of this helpful if you are thinking about doing something like that. I did not mention I'm making this little pouch because my wheelchair has like a little pocket on the back of like the back thing that's hard for me to reach. So I just want to make this little pouch that has ties on it, so I can like tie it to like the handlebars or something, so that if I want to put something in it, it's like easier to reach. So when I finish this, I'll show you what it looks like and put it on my chair and all that good stuff. But like I said, I hope you found this helpful. If you like this video and you want to see more from me and more crochet content, I'm having a crafty girl summer. Feel free to subscribe. I post videos 2 to 3 times a month, but I'm posting about 4 videos a month for the summer, so that is very fun. We have lots of fun over here. So thank you so much for watching this one. I'll see you next time.